Welcome back to Circle City Conversations, and Happy New Year to our listeners. As we step into a new year, we're continuing our reflection on the conversations that defined this last year. This episode is part 2 of our year-end compilation, featuring more standout moments, thought-provoking discussions, and memorable insights from across the year. These conversations challenged perspectives, sparked important dialogue, and reminded us why storytelling and community matter. As we move forward into a new year, we're proud to revisit these moments and carry their lessons with us. Thank you so much for being part of the Circle City Conversations community, and here's Best of the Year Part 2. What about, one of the things that we've had to deal with before is the Products Liability Act. Mm-hmm. Some of the people watching and or listening on to the podcast, they may not be aware of some of the issues that the Indiana Products Liability Act raises for plaintiffs.
Right.
Yeah.
It's, the codification of Indiana's act is not that dissimilar from other states, or from my experience, because they still use the inherently dangerous. Mm-hmm. They still use the negligent design, negligent warnings, things like that. So those concepts pretty much remain similar, and the Indiana luckily has some good case law that has developed over the years that if the court cannot hold jurisdiction over the manufacturer, then the retailer can be held to step into the shoes of the manufacturer.
Okay.
And that's come in very handy. I've had some defective fireworks cases.
Defective fireworks?
Defective fireworks cases.
Wow.
And the product was a firework that shot 100 missiles up into the air, and they would go up and explode.
Yeah.
The problem with it, and this is why these cases are so interesting, is it turns out that the missiles fired in a serpentine pattern going back and forth up the rows.
I see, yeah.
And halfway through, suddenly you have no weight on one side and all the weight on the other, and it's vibrating because of the launching. And that's exactly what happened.
It tips over and starts shooting at the people that are watching.
And it went right into my guy's eye and exploded. So,
oh my God.
Yep.
We were at the lake house a couple years ago, and we were shooting mortars in the tube tipped over and shot one right into the garage.
I used to love shooting off fireworks with my kids when they were little. When I got my first fireworks case, it was like,
no more. You'll watch them. You'll watch the professional do it.
I feel bad for them.
Oh, I should probably do that. I need to take some of your advice. So, but that's what lawyers, we never take our own advice, right?
It happens.
If you were to tell a young lawyer, what are some of the advantages of working with the Bar Foundation or even the association?
Yeah. Two things. One, I think it's the best way to meet people that aren't in your area of practice, right? I mean, how many people have you met that you never would have otherwise met? And so it's just, I like meeting people. I like people. So it's just a fun way to connect with people. And also, selfishly, it's a great way to develop new referral sources. Mm-hmm. That's never been the impetus to being involved in it, but it's just a really good way to get your name out in the community. But I think just personally for me, the most fun aspect has been getting to know judges a lot better.
Yeah. Outside of the courtroom.
Exactly. It's I think especially as a really young lawyer, I was like, oh my gosh, these people are on this pedestal, which they are, but it's also they're real people, right? And it's so being at association events with them and getting to be on committees with them and doing real work with judges and just getting to know them, these people that you're going to be in front of and trying cases in front of, having hearings in front of. I think there's a lot of value in that in a lot of different ways.
Absolutely.
So I've loved that, but it's just our foundation does so much good work, and so does the association for so many different causes. So it's just a total win-win.
Yeah. I mean, they do excellent work in bringing legal services and legal opportunities to people that wouldn't normally be able to get them.
Absolutely. I cannot say enough about it. And I mean, I think when I moved back here, I was just kind of blown away at how impressive the Bar Foundation and Bar Association was. And so right away I got involved and got in the Young Lawyers, board or whatever. And somehow they kept me around and
they kicked me off that. I got too old.
You got too old?
They were like, this white's not going to work anymore, Alex. Nope. You're out of here, old man.
Even if you don't get the result for the client who you're trying the case on behalf of, it comes back when defense counsel and the insurance companies know you're willing to go try the case.
Yeah.
In this case, we didn't get the verdict we wanted, but we did beat the offer by
Correct.
3 times. But then a week later, another attorney from the same law firm that we just tried the case against called and offered me 3 times what had been previously offered on another case, and we were able to get it resolved.
Yes.
I have a hard time believing that that's not because they went, oh, these guys know what they're doing.
Right.
And they're
gonna
willing
go
to
try
go
it.
do it.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
I think that's always the biggest lesson.
Yeah.
If you just have to be willing to put in the work and willing to go try the case.
Right.
Otherwise, what are you doing being a trial lawyer?
So my accident happened 6 months into me being at the city of Indianapolis. And then a year later, I was still like healing and getting therapy and surgery and blah, 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 blah. But I had a really big case for the city where it was actually an administrative hearing. You wouldn't know it. You would have thought it was a jury trial in federal court. But we were trying to get a couple of police officers terminated for killing an unarmed Black man named Aaron Bailey.
Okay.
And I was asked to co-counsel a administrative hearing. Like I said, it's like basically a jury trial in front of a merit board under the leadership of Brian Roach, who was the police chief at the time, who is an incredible human being. And that case went left for a lot of reasons. And we ultimately lost. John Kautzman, who's an excellent lawyer, was on the other side. And
Cops and taxi cab drivers. That's who he represents.
I mean,
I met him on taxi places. Yeah.
he does a good job.
That's good.
He's good. And he kicked my ass. But I also, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I left the city and I said, I lost the most important thing that I could have ever tried my entire life. Trying to hold some cops accountable for killing an unarmed Black man. I'm pretty sure that my lawyership peaked there and I lost. And maybe this game ain't for me. And I'm still healing from getting smashed by a truck.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
at this time, it was,
Yeah.
all of it was horrible.
Yeah.
And my husband was deciding that he didn't want to be involved in the day-to-day of Hotel Tango anymore and was transitioning to Tinker. And there was a lot of things that were in flux. My mom's health, she was showing signs of Alzheimer's, which have now been diagnosed. My dad's health, life was lifing hard.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I need a break from the law.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this isn't for me. And because of my involvement in the city and like my connections with people, one of my board members at the Athenaeum Foundation, the building that houses the Rathskeller downtown. So I served on that nonprofit board, and there is a young progressive Democrat named Aaron Shaler. He's no longer with us, but he was like, Vila, there's this woman out in Pike Township who just took out the incumbent, and she's about to be the trustee out there, and she needs somebody to help her, and you might be the perfect person. And so I said, well, what does it pay? Because I just left city government.
Yeah.
And I need to make at least about that. And so they said, well, if you come over here, we'll pay you a little bit more.
Yeah.
And you're going to get an opportunity to work with her to manage Pike Township.
Yeah.
And the township is responsible for taking care of the poorest amongst us. Their whole job is like emergency relief when you need help with a rent payment or a utility payment or whatever the case may be. And they also, back before Marion County is under Unigov, it was each township had their own fire department, police department, blah, 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 right? So Pike Township still has its own fire department.
Yeah.
So I was about to help the trustee oversee this like $25 million budget and administer township assistance to poor people, communities of color, which I'm passionate about serving. And I'm going to have the flexibility to also heal from a lot of chaos.
When you see people losing faith in our legal institutions, what does that do to you personally? How does that make you feel?
Awful.
Yeah.
I mean, seeing people who don't respect decisions of the court, seeing people, losing confidence in our judicial system, it's awful. And again, I think that there's improvement to be made, and I think that the focus on this, both by the committee, but I think you're seeing the legal community come out. We are at least seeing the legal community come out. People who've practiced for longer than we have, who are saying, "Yeah, I want to volunteer for this. I want to be a part of this," so that they can go out and talk to other people, and people are getting re-inspired about not only hearing about it and rereading things that you maybe haven't dusted off in a while that talk about constitutional rights and things like that. I think it's definitely going to get better, but I think seeing it is terrible.
Yeah, I agree with awful.
Yeah.
I'd add up concerned.
Yes.
And I know that Chris will agree with me too, as will everybody that's responded to us. I feel called to do something, is how I feel. And I mean, that includes going back and thinking about some things that I've not thought about in the same way for a long time. Reading some foundational things that I read early in my education, and then being a part of something like this, to feel like there's something tangible that we're doing to, and one of the biggest parts of this for me is getting to be in the room for these conversations.
Yeah.
And getting to be involved in brainstorming of what can we, under this umbrella of rule of law, what are all of the various things that we can come up with that would be helpful to educate, to remind ourselves, and to increase the confidence in the rule of law in our system to as many people as possible.
Let's move on to that topic, which is essentially preparation.
Yeah.
Preparing for it, because I think that was a good point that you just made. I'm sure even nowadays, there are many more statistics on questions that have been asked.
Yeah.
What to expect, moving forward, because these courses like the Indy Bar Prep Review, the Barbary courses, all of these courses have been around a long time now. So they've been able to collect that data and look at what some of the test questions are. So
Yeah.
to let's say a young law student that obviously has never taken the bar exam, but wants to kind of know what to expect, I explain to them how when you're sitting in there in those prep courses, and I've done them, they tell you, okay, expect for this. They tested this last year, or they tested this the last 2 out of 6 years, or, kind of explain that process. And that way, maybe some folks that are listening realize that you don't have to necessarily know everything.
Yeah.
Even though they expect you to.
Yeah.
They
definitely expect
they do. They expect you to know everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you can't, no one could possibly do that. I mean, it's just too much information.
Yeah.
Even, this, you see us practicing law. We pull open our not books now, but we research things. We still don't know everything off the top of our head.
And that another thing with that is that the law is always changing in terms of case law and some of the things we practice here. But for the MBE, like the multiple choice questions, it's a pretty clear set of topics. Most of them are the 1L courses you have to take your first year that, by the end of your third year, you should kind of have at least the general understanding of all those courses, and then just re-reviewing them was pretty easy and just understanding those topics. But where it gets dicey is the essay topics, because there's such a broad range of available topics that they can choose from, whether it's like family law, trust, secure transactions, some of those other courses you don't necessarily have to take in law school that could still show up on the bar exam. What I would recommend that I did is I tried to get as many of those courses that were going to be on the bar exam in school, just so I had a general understanding. So things like secure transactions, family law, even trusts.
Yeah,
Trusts and trusts. That's another one. Courses that are going to be on the bar exam, it really would help you just to take them in law school, so that when you go to the bar prep, it's not learning all this new information. Like, what does that mean? You had a general understanding, like, oh, wait, I kind of remember that as you're doing the preparation. So that, another thing too is expect the unexpected. From my experience this year, if they tell you that a topic is not going to be tested, still just briefly go over it and try to understand the general concepts of it, because you never know what's going to be on the exam.
Yeah. I when I was in law school, I never took secure transactions. I never took UCC. I never took any of those classes.
Oh goodness.
Yeah.
Secure transactions is a tough one to try to relearn.
And that is, so that's where I struggled on the bar exam. Fortunately, the essay was a hybrid with other areas of law aside from secure transactions. So I focused on what I was good at, what I knew that I could do well. So
that's good.
Yeah. It's, and you're absolutely right. Expect the unexpected, and at a minimum, consider the topics that you don't know much about. And I wish I would have taken secure transactions. I wish I would have taken tax law with Jagan, who taught it for many years. I just kind of avoided those because I thought it would be too much for me, and I was totally disinterested in it.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was definitely disinterested in secure transactions. Absolutely. But I just knew it was going to be on the bar exam. So I took some of them. There's still some courses I don't think I necessarily took. I'm trying to think of one that was on there, but regardless, it will, if you're looking at a course like, I don't want to take secure transactions, if it's going to be on the bar exam, just take the course. Just learn it before you have to take the bar exam. It will help you in the long run.
Absolutely.
It really will.
So you went straight into law school after undergrad, but before that happened, something happened to you that really kind of changed your life. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, there isn't really a little bit to say about it, Alex, but and I asked Emmanuel how much time we have here, because there's a lot to talk about. But there's always, as you know, there's always things people can talk about.
Right.
So it was September 18th, 2015, when I was hit by a car as a pedestrian.
Okay.
I was outside of my parents' home. Technically, I was really outside of their driveway, pretty much, on a longboard, which is basically a skateboard, just longer.
Yeah.
And I was riding it outside my parents' home and hit by a car. The guy was speeding a little bit, but there's the issue of I used to be always so concerned about framing the story, so it made it sound like it wasn't my fault or something. But the issue isn't fault, and we often focus on those things. The issue is, how do I respond to what happened? So I was hit by the car. I was my head and shoulders shattered the windshield of the Lexus, and it was actually my neighbors who found one of my shoes 60 feet up in a tree.
Oh my gosh.
About a week later, and thankfully I landed in the grass, but I was immediately in a coma. I was unconscious. I wasn't breathing and all of those things, and I was actually teaching a little girl, a neighbor of mine, how to ride the longboard, how to ride the skateboard. Yeah. And so she was there, and she was about 6 or 7 years old. And she thankfully didn't see me get hit by the car, but she heard it, which was good because she thought I'd been shot. Okay. And so she ran into her grandma's house and said, Cameron's been shot. Cameron's been shot. And in a small town of Columbus, Indiana, a shooting's a big deal. So all of the police department basically shows up to help me, and the ambulance and everybody. And then they realize they need some bigger power here, so they get I get Lifeline via helicopter to Indianapolis, Indiana, where I spent about 2 weeks or so in a coma, non-induced, at IU Methodist Hospital.
Downtown.
Yep, in downtown. And received tremendous care, and my wife has talked about that, and I'm very blessed, very blessed to have had that resource and just be where I'm at. But I was in the coma 2.5 weeks, and diagnosed with a severe diffuse axonal brain injury down to my brainstem. And I'm sure you've heard that diagnosis many times before in your line of work. And it was really bad. The reports were terrible, and I lost about a third of my skull. My skull was shattered upon impact. There was actually a piece of my skull on the car, which I didn't find out until I saw the police photos when Matt Shad worked my personal injury case about 8 months after the accident. So
I want to talk to you a little bit about the brain injury itself, because I know that you've really studied this and really dug into it after the fact and after you were done healing. If you could just try to describe, maybe to like in layman's terms, what type of injury that was, like what part of your brain, like what happened?
Yeah. So doctors and therapists and counselors kept telling me the same thing. So they kept saying, because of the nature of your injury, the hardest things for you, Cameron, are going to be higher level thinking, executive function, just using my brain, which means my frontal cortex was a prefrontal cortex area which is kind of, I mean, technically the injury was on this side of my head, but with a diffuse injury, we all know what an essential oil diffuser is.
Yeah.
It fills the room. And so the injury in this sense fills the brain. And spreads throughout the brain.
Okay.
and fills it out. And so down to my brainstem, the injury was affected. But given the frontal nature of it, kind of in this mid side area, that affects the higher level thinking, executive function parts of your brain, reasoning, higher level thought processes and solving problems and those type of things. And so that's actually why I was motivated to go to law school. And the main part was to take the LSAT, because I thought, man, if I could do that test, I could do anything else.
Oh, yeah.
So, I spent like 6 months studying for it while I was taking full-time classes at the seminary. And this, again, it demonstrates the point that in school, there's a lot more flexibility. I mean, if that's what you're doing, you can really make things work. And anyway, very grueling to study for that test. It was very hard. And I couldn't have done it without my wife, because she was, because I kept wanting to give up, and she just kept encouraging me to keep working on it. Yeah.
Good for
Same
you.
thing with the bar exam.
Oh, that's
a horrible test. Way harder than LSAT. That's a horrible test.
You know what I will say about the LSAT, because especially given your TBI, what they told you, the LSAT is a test that is geared to testing executive function, higher level reasoning, all based on multiple choice usually.
Right.
And I think that those kinds of standardized tests can be more difficult for people that have had a TBI.
Oh, I'm sure of that. I mean, and some people just generally say, I'm not good at multiple choice tests, especially because of the nature of the standardized test being, there's multiple options here, and one of them's okay, another one's okay, and then this is the best. And you've got to kind of, you've got to learn that. And that's a good skill with preparing for law school and preparing for the actual practice of law, is knowing what's the best argument and what's the best solution for my client.
What do you think is one myth maybe about business law or bankruptcy that you'd love to debunk? One myth.
Oh, I got a lot of them, but I would say a myth that I think is that it's somehow harmful
To do a bankruptcy for your business? That's what I always thought.
a business for people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like one of the first things that people would say individually that would come in, like,
It's going to ruin my life. I'm not going to be able to do XYZ. And, you know, you just kind of run people through the reality of what it looks like and say, well, okay, let's, you know, I have to, as the lawyer, tell you it depends, right? Like if you want to go buy, excuse me, a $300 house in 2 weeks, you're not going to be able to. But honestly, you probably wouldn't have been able to even before the bankruptcy, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about some realities here. And then let's talk about what the end goal is. And the same with the business too, right? I mean, or that it's going to ruin everything, or that for some reason you're a failure in
business.
in business or in life. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's similar to, you know, saying, well, I need to see a therapist.
Well, that's what I was going to say, that you
Mental-
turn into a therapist.
Oh, 100%, which I love. Where in another life I would have been a therapist because it's counseling, right?
Yes.
You know, it's a legal profession, but that's what we do. You know, you counsel clients, but you give them legal advice because it's never, you're always dealing with a person.
Yeah.
I'm never just dealing with the problem. So whether it's the owner of the business who says, I need to get paid, and these people are trying to file a bankruptcy and they did XYZ, and we can identify, you shouldn't have your debt discharged in the bankruptcy because you have a different type of claim, or you should get paid, or you should get your collateral back, or you should be able to get your rental house back. So you need some relief from the state. And just like mental health, right? Like if you just asking for help is not the problem, right? Like it's treating something bigger, and that is not a failure in and of itself. It's actually a triumph to be able to say, this is going on. I want to hear from you what I could do to make it better.
You talked about a case that you tried up in Allen County. Tell me a little bit more about that case. I want to talk a little bit about that.
Sure. That was the Allison Davis case, and Allison was falsely accused of murdering her husband. And it was super frustrating because it was very clear to me the first time that I met her, right around Christmas of 2023, that she was innocent. She has this great family. Not that that means you can't commit murder if you come from a great family, but it was something more about, that's a piece of the puzzle, and it was something more about just her and the way that she told the story. She found her husband at the bottom of the stairs at 4:30 in the morning in a pool of blood. He had been drinking the night before. In his history as a human being, he had a bit of a drinking problem, and he would fall on occasion. And so it's right at the bottom of the stairs. She put two and two together and thought he fell down the stairs. She called police when he wouldn't, she couldn't roust him up. She called 911. They came in, and doctors thought that that the injuries were inconsistent with the fall. And that seed right there from the ER doctor then manifested itself to the autopsy doc, to the forensic pathologist, who then listened to the ER doctor, and then he started to have some questions, and then he alerted the lead detective, to those doubts. And the next thing you know, she's being accused of murder. And that was in August of 2023. In December, they finally charged her. But also what was going on in that case that was super interesting was that she had a Garmin on, a watch, and the Garmin, it showed if she was asleep. It showed what her level of activity was, her heart rate, and so forth. And the prosecution had that Garmin evidence before they charged her, and they never bothered to look at it.
Wow.
And once we subpoenaed some of the records and showed it to our expert, he's like, yeah, she was asleep is what it shows. Her heart rate was never elevated is what it shows, and she never took steps. They said that she had gotten rid of a murder weapon. The accusation was that Allison had hit her husband with a baseball bat or something along the lines of a baseball bat, hit him in the head, and that's how he died. That's what they say. The prosecution said was consistent with the injuries. And so we thought, and then they said she must have hid the bat or whatever, but the steps that she took were inconsistent with that theory as well. So you think, well, prosecutions, the prosecutor, ministers of justice, they're going to look at this evidence very seriously and then dismiss. We really believe that. And instead, they did something that was a little bit unexpected. The prosecution moved to exclude the Garmin evidence knowing that it was very bad for their case. And then we hired the top expert on Fitbit and exercise body worn, watches. And he testified, and as did our Purdue expert, that this stuff is reliable. And the Judge Gull, the state did not put on, the prosecution did not put one single expert on at all to say it's bad evidence, it doesn't work, it's junk. Not one. And the judge excluded the evidence with 5 words or 5 or 6 words. State's motion to exclude granted.
No explanation.
No explanation. And then at trial, when we were re-arguing it, the judge said, well, the expert from Columbia University who's testified in a million other cases about these types of devices, he was not an expert on Garmin, which is a bad precedent for her to set, by the way, because the drunk driving cases, there's an intoxilizer machine, for example. Most of the cops that testify, if not all of them, are not experts on intoxilizers. They just know the machine, just like our expert knew the machine. So the legal reasoning there, even that's all that she said, was he wasn't an expert. It's faulty. It doesn't make any sense, really. And so we never got to put that Garmin evidence in front of the jury, which is super frustrating.